5 p.m. my time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So it's time to get started with this How to Serious webinar, Cooperative Learning, Strategies Learning Together. So good morning or afternoon to all faculty around the world, because I know that we are all over the world. Welcome to today's How to Serious. Please remember to mute yourselves whenever you're not speaking. All slides and links referenced in this presentation will be sent out along with the PD2Go newsletter actually today. So first of all, I would like to welcome, if we have any affiliate institution faculty, from now on they will be joining Westcliff University faculty on the professional development trainings that we are designing every month. So welcome everyone. We are ready to get started with this 45-minute session in which we will discuss cooperative learning, but we will also try one specific strategy that you can totally use in your classroom, and it's very, very easy to plan. So this morning, Professor Constant and I will be facilitating this how-to session. So let's get started. Professor Constant, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. So it's a little drizzly here in Southern California, and I was looking forward to a hot cup of coffee, and my delivery came iced. So hopefully that is not an indication of our day. We hope that today we start off hot. So as we look at our session today, we're going to do a real quick 1-minute recap, a review for those of you that joined us for our first cooperative learning session. And if you're new to this session, a little bit of a building background knowledge. Then we're going to talk about our home fun. Hopefully you went back after the last session and took a few moments to try to jigsaw your classroom. Then we're going to engage in a cooperative learning group task, come back and reflect together, and hopefully there's a few minutes at the end for some questions and answers. So last time we talked a little bit about why cooperative learning is so important and the beneficial skills and the professionalism that our students get from the opportunities to engage in cooperative learning and working with their peers. Oftentimes our students will learn as much from their peer as they can sometimes from us. And so I was going to share a example from me last night as a student. As a student last night, my professor put us in a breakout room. And while I was there, I was able to learn how to count on others, interact with people from a variety of cultures. We were all accountable to help deliver an outcome. We've got to learn how to communicate, be creative. I learned a lot from my peers about concepts that I was not as aware of as I didn't have the same background. We collaboratively worked together and we processed the information. And so these skills are skills that we don't just practice in the classroom as students. They're not skills we just practice or we assign students as professors. When they leave our classrooms or they come to their work, like right now, I am engaging in these professional skills. These are cooperative, teamwork, collaborative skills that we engage in on a regular basis. So home fun. So we asked, or I asked last time, if you would please try to jigsaw, break your students up into groups and give them different tasks and see if they could come out and report back as a group with an outcome. So we're going to ask that you go into a breakout room. In your breakout room, you're going to be there for just 4 minutes. Remember, we only have 45 minutes today. We have a lot of information to cover. So this is just a quick review. So you'll be there for 4 minutes. You're going to discuss, did you try to jigsaw? Were there challenges with your jigsaw? Did you have success with that? If not, maybe you did a different group or cooperative learning strategy where you had students engage and work with each other to the benefits that I just spoke of. And when you come back, instead of sharing out as a whole group, we're going to ask that you share in the chat box a challenge that your group talked about, maybe success that you personally had, a strategy that you utilized that you really liked. And so we're going to go ahead and break you into groups right now. It will give you 4 minutes. So it's a real quick round robin kind of conversation. Did you try a jigsaw? Were there challenges? Was there success? If you didn't try, did you try some group work, some cooperative learning where students were interacting peer to peer? And then come back and share that in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to, for recording purposes, I'm going to leave one group in the main room and I'm going to open 2 breakout rooms right now. Let's say we are 14. Let's put 5 people in each breakout room. Okay. Whoever has not been assigned to a breakout room will remain in the main room.
Okay, so as Ev said, we have about 4 minutes to discuss if we tried jigsaws, if we had any challenges or successes, and if we didn't, did we do any kind of perhaps cooperative learning? Well, I suppose I can start. I did try to send my students into breakout rooms. My students are learning to be teachers, and so I wanted them to be able to have an experience where it allowed them to be the teacher in the breakout room. And it was really interesting as I put the students in breakout rooms with other students to teach one another. In my reflection, I should have been more structured in my directions to them, because when I would go pop into the breakout room and see what was going on, their cameras were off. It was very quiet. I had to like ask specific questions to see if the students needed help, where they were needing help. So I found that my challenge was, or my reflection was, to be more clear in my instructions when I put students in great breakout rooms for cooperative learning.
So I think it depends on the students and the skills that they already have and their willingness to follow instructions. In my experience this week and in this particular class, I had 2 groups, and I am pretty structured when I give an assignment. I mean, I'm very structured. I put it on a slide and I say, okay, you're going to have 8 minutes. And when you come back, you need to answer. And I give them the questions. And then I will say, okay, somebody, now what are you going to do in the breakout room? Okay. And they say, blah, blah, blah. And then they go to the breakout room. And one group kind of got it. Okay. But the other group just, and I checked on them and I said, how's it going? Are you answering? Like I'm really getting in there. Okay. And then they come back and one group is kind of like, okay, the question answered this and this. The other group's like, ooh, they didn't care to do the exercise. And so in the classroom, then I'm trying to get them to follow through on that short outline of what they're going to need to accomplish in the next week to do the assignment. And they didn't turn in the assignment. So I'm looking for ways to be better with groups, because it didn't work for me this week.
And
it was a group assignment they didn't turn in?
They did not turn in a group assignment.
Wow.
And I believe we have just about a minute or so left of this quick debrief from our home fun. Dr. Broding, Professor Oberman, did you guys, or Dr. Johnson? I see Dr. Johnson joined our group. Good morning. Did anybody else have an opportunity to try in Jigsaw or do another cooperative activity?
I did, but I normally do anyways, but I will give my I put them in groups, and I've learned to only put them in actually groups of 2, because just like Dr. Crow said, my groups of 3 or more, there's always at least 1 or 2 people not doing anything, but groups of 2 seem to work. And I will say, here's your quick assignment, go research, whatever it is. Like I'm teaching 375, which is integrating technology. So I'll say, go find, some new technology that has to do with, I don't know, lesson planning, a good way to do some lesson plans. And they do, and they'll go out and find and come back and then discuss it with, they discuss it with themselves and then come back and discuss it with the class. And it just seems that if it's 2 people, it works very well. Anything more than that, I seem to have issues with groups, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate that insight. Ev, I think we're at our 4 minutes. Did you want to call the groups back?
Yes, they will be here in 4 seconds.
All right, there we go.
I think I'll try 2 in a group this week.
Thanks, Liz. I think I might too. So welcome back. Thanks so much. I know that was a quick round robin sharing of if you tried cooperative learning Jigsaw, if you didn't, maybe you tried something else, or if you had a challenge or a success. And if you could share that in the chat, we'd so appreciate that. Your challenge, your success, if you tried it, if you offer another strategy, we would love to be able to engage in the chat with those ideas. So as we move forward and we look at exactly what we're thinking about for, sorry,
There's a problem with the presentation. Give me just a sec. Sorry. Okay. There we go again.
no problem.
Sorry about that.
Hey, we're all professors. We run into those little glitches. We learn
Yeah.
how to roll with it. Flexibility and adaptability are really good characteristics and traits that we can possess as strengths. So when we think about putting our students in breakout rooms and having discussions around ideas, we want to do 4 things. So we want to make sure we set a learning outcome. We always want to start with, what do we want our students to know and be able to do? We want to be able to provide a question that they can answer, a topic they can examine or investigate, something that engages them in the interdependent, interpersonal kinds of communication skills, that is giving them outcomes and accountability. We want to set that time, and then we want to ask them to do something with the information that they've just practiced. So some sort of deliverable. So when we work in breakout groups, it's going to be about 30-ish minutes to really be able to engage in that. And so you want to introduce the topic, take about a minute to provide that background knowledge, or to maybe build new vocabulary or to build that new concept. It takes about a minute for students to join the group. Some are a little slower than others. Think about, as we transition from a face-to-face in-classroom experience to a virtual experience, we still want quick transitions. We need to use class time effectively. So we can't have them taking several minutes to get into that breakout room. We need quick transitions in about a minute. And then once they're in there, they need time to research. They need time to be able to discuss together. They need time to discuss what the deliverable is and how they're going to do it. Oftentimes students will have roles. One is going to be the reporter out. One is going to be the recorder of the information. One is setting up the slide, whatever that, what do you want them to know and be able to do topic is, like what those learning outcomes are. They sometimes have to discuss who's going to take on what responsibility. And then as we come back, each group needs a few minutes to reflect as a whole and talk about what each other saw and heard. So this is about a 30-ish minute breakout room session. Now, we just did 4 minutes as a review of our previous session, which was a very quick, like I said, round robin turnaround, but we did each of those things. We said, here's what we want you to do. Here's what the topic is that you're going to talk about. You have 4 minutes to do that. And the deliverable was to put it in the chat when you got back. So even in that really short time of looking at what we previously did, we accomplished all 4 of those best practices for breakout rooms.
Okay, wonderful. Now I'm going to continue this workshop talking about one very effective and efficient cooperative learning strategy that we can use. It's very simple to use and it's quite effective. So it's called think, pair, and share. Actually, you can use it in pairs. So I heard someone saying, hey, I prefer my students to work in pairs, but you can do it with big groups. So basically, you need a learning outcome as with the breakout rooms. You need to decide the topic in advance. Of course, you cannot make it a surprise for your students, or you cannot just come up with an idea in the moment. You have to really plan your learning strategies. You have to either decide on the topic, develop the questions that you want students to answer. Think about how you want to pair up your students. You want to pair up students according to certain characteristics. So you have to really preset that. You need to give a time limit and, of course, a type of deliverable. What is it that I want my students to complete when I finish think, pair, and share? So think, pair, and share is basically a strategy that is very similar to the breakout rooms, and we will discuss that later on in this workshop, in which you introduce the topic and you introduce the think, pair, shared strategy. What is a think, pair, shared strategy? You give students moments or minutes to think by themselves individually in the main room. First of all, let me show you what it looks like in your lesson plan, if you like. You take around 5 minutes in the main room to introduce the topic to students, to introduce a strategy, tell them, okay, today we're going to be working with a strategy called think, pair, and share, in which you will be thinking individually about a question that I will pose or a problem that I will show you. First of all, you have to think about that individually, and take notes. Then you're going to pair up with a student or with a group and you're going to share your notes. And then we are going to go back to the main room and share as a whole group the conversations taking place in the small groups. So basically, it looks like this: 5 minutes in the main room discussing the topic and the strategy. Once you know that students know exactly what to do, you give them around 10 minutes. It can be less depending on the complexity of the question, if you like. You can give them 5 to 10 minutes for you to give the question and for students to think about what they know or have learned about the topic. And they actually need to take notes individually before getting into talking and discussing with other peers. Then they pair with another student or a small group. That it will take around 10 minutes. Then give them 1 to 2 minutes for students to join breakout rooms, just in case they have questions, just to make sure that all the breakout rooms are set. Then you give them around 10 minutes to pair and discuss their findings. You can have a look at, when we talked about the breakout rooms, we gave them 20 minutes in the breakout rooms to discuss. Here, we're just giving them 10 minutes because they already had some time to actually think and do the research that they needed for the discussion in the breakout rooms. So, but if you think that they need more time, you need to give them the proper amount of time to do the research, discuss, and complete the deliverable. Then we go back to the main room and students share their thinking or what their conclusions of the conversations that they had with their peers. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to let us know, okay? Because I cannot actually see your faces. So now let's try a think, pair, share activity. So this will take around 10 minutes. Get ready to experience this collaborative learning strategy, and let's see the pros and cons of this. So basically what you have to do, first you're going to think. I'm going to give you, this is a very short, we only have 45 minutes. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, or let's say 3 minutes, to think about these 3 outcomes that I want you to think about. First, think about 3 benefits of including cooperative learning strategies, particularly this one, think, pair, and share in your course. Think about the content that you teach. Think about your students. So Think about 3 benefits of including cooperative learning, 2 challenges that you might encounter when using this strategy, and 1 cooperative learning strategy you want to try and why. So think about these 3 specifics. I'm going to give you 2 minutes in the main room to take notes before we open the breakout rooms for group discussion. Any questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to give you then 2 minutes to complete this. Maybe 1. Let's say, I'm sorry, it's not that I'm in a rush. Maybe 1 because we have been discussing this in previous sessions. So just take short notes. There we go, 1 minute to go.
So I see Professor McWilliams making notes, and I'm thinking, since we're not discussing 3, 2, and 1, we might run out of time. What do you guys think? You think we could jump in? Do we have 3 or 2 or 1?
That's fine. Let's just give this 30 seconds, and then when we get into the room, we just share what we have. I understand the time is really short, but this is just like a model of what we can do. But that's a good idea. Don't worry about 3, 2, 1. Just whatever you have. There we are. Okay. So hopefully you have 3 benefits, 2 challenges, and 1 cooperative learning strategy that you want to try. If you don't, that's okay. It's just, of course, in real classroom settings, you do need to give students time to think and take notes. Enough time for thinking time. But for now, let's say that we gave them 10 minutes, 5 minutes that they needed for this. Now let's move on and work in breakout rooms. So I'm going to open again the rooms, and I'm going to give you the link to a Google Doc. I will visit each room, and I will give each one of you the link to a Google Doc, in which you, in your group discussion, you will just discuss your notes and come up with 3 benefits, 2 challenges, and 1 cooperative learning strategy that you want to try. So, but differently than from the breakout rooms, you are going to have, well, then we're going to come back and share your discussions. Each one in the group, someone in the group is going to share their screen and share their deliverables. I think, oh, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, but something important when it comes to cooperative learning is that you need to assign group roles. That's the only way that you make sure that everyone is accountable for the activity that they're doing. And you also make sure that everyone is engaged in the activity that you're giving them. So in each group, I'm going to open the breakout rooms, and this you have on the link that I will share with you in a sec. There will be 1 facilitator. It's up to you. You decide who will be the facilitator, who will be the reporter, the timekeeper, the recorder, the manager, and the checker. So if hopefully you can actually, you can start with this. You can start negotiating who will do what, and then you share this, your notes on the challenges and benefits of using breakout cooperative learning strategies. So I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions of what you have to do? If not, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open the rooms. It's going to be the same rooms that you were working in the first place. And I'm going to give you around, let's say 5 minutes. I know it's supposed to be 10, 15, it all depends on the topic, but because of time constraints, you're going to have around 5 to 7 minutes to discuss your notes. And I will go to each room and give you the link to your Google Doc. The participants then in this room are going to be breakout room 3. So let me just stop here. And let me give you the link to this. Okay, so this is the link to your Google Doc. Just let me know if you have access to it, please.
Okay, we need to choose roles. We got like not that much time left.
Yeah, okay, so let's open up the Google Doc. I've got the Google Doc opened. We're breakout room 3. So we have a facilitator. I'll be the facilitator since I've got the doc open. Is there somebody who wants to report out what we discuss?
I can do that.
Thank you. Is there somebody who can keep track of time?
I will do that.
Thank you. And then there are roles of the manager, and there's roles of the checker. So the manager is much like the facilitator, and the checker just kinds of clarifies information. So if I have the doc open, I can take notes. Does anyone else have the doc open? Yes? Okay, does somebody
Yeah, I
want to be
think
the
we all do.
reporter? Does somebody want to type?
I can type and
Okay.
track time.
Okay. Oh, well, so let's give everybody a different role though.
Oh,
Because
sorry,
the
sorry.
idea, that's okay. No. Because the idea of cooperative learning, right, is that everybody's structured. So everybody has an independent role so that they can't just be let off the hook for their learning. So somebody's really keeping track of time. Somebody's going to write what we say down. Somebody's kind of organizing everything.
I
then
thought we were
somebody
missing one
right?
though.
Did we see
Sorry
that?
about that.
That's okay. So is there somebody else who was going to write down? Liz, did I see you raise your hand that you would
Sure.
write?
Sure, I'll do it.
I'll do time just to.
I don't remember
I'm
who's
doing
doing what
time.
now.
Oh,
I think Leanna's doing time. Okay.
I think we're all good then.
Okay, so then Tracy, why don't you clarify if somebody has, like, if something's not clear, ask a
Okay.
question about what they say.
Sure.
You're the
sure.
checker,
I'll be the checker.
okay? And I didn't have a role for Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson, do you want to be the facilitator and ask the questions? 3 benefits?
I'm still lost. Are we, is this the application of this, or is this just setting up the roles for the future? I mean, is an example of how to set up roles? Is that,
This is
I
setting
don't
up the roles
understand.
for the activity that we're doing right now. So like I'm keeping track of time for what we're doing right now. So we have about 3 minutes left to finish our activity, for which you will be the facilitator, hopefully, meaning that you will ask the questions that all of the people here will answer.
Because it sounds like I don't know I don't understand it, so I don't understand how I would be a facilitator.
Then maybe do you want to be the time tracker and just keep us on track for another 2 to 3 minutes and I will ask the questions?
Yeah, but I don't even know where there's no time. There's no meter for me to, I didn't have my stopwatch when we started. So I have no idea how much time's left. I don't know how anybody.
It's okay. I think we
don't
only have
get
2
it.
minutes. Let's continue. Yeah.
Okay.
I
No
have no
problem.
idea how much time's left because there's no
That's-
running clock. There's nothing.
That's not a problem. There are often times in groups and in cooperative learning where there may not be enough roles for everybody. And so somebody is the participant who, we hope through our roles to engage. Or like for Dr. Johnson, we need to clarify for him as a group, as a whole, right? And so the task that we've been asked to do is to come up with 3 benefits of cooperative learning strategies. I see that we have students teach each other. as one of the benefits. Do we have another benefit?
Promoting social skills.
Promoting social skills and language. When we think of our student population, having our students, actually speak in class, I think actually helps them to promote language skills.
Retention of information.
Thank you. Retention of information. When we are, struggle in class in breakout rooms and doing a think pair share, I see that we've got people who kind of get off the hook, right? They're the free rider. They're let off the hook for learning or contributing. Sometimes there's conflict. That is very true. That how do we manage conflict when, especially, let's say 2 students don't agree? Is there another? We only needed 2.
There can be tech issues.
Oh yeah, technology issues.
Does anybody have?
No, please go, Leanna.
I was going to say, does anybody have one strategy they want to throw out in our last seconds of the meeting, of the breakout room?
So one strategy that we could try, well, we could obviously try think pair share. We can obviously try the jigsaw again. We can try and, I mean, if we're just like brainstorming, assigning roles to students to help with accountability. I know in our original group, we talked about that we wanted to learn more ways because they weren't turning in the work. So if each person was accountable to a part of the project, maybe that would help the project get turned in timely. And then our thinking about why, So what is our why? I think why goes back to really a cooperative teamwork, communication around topics is professional. Like they will always do that in their job. I mean, there will be some working independently. There will be some that have to work in isolation, but a lot of the times and more often, I think we find jobs that require teamwork.
I think that question is, why did you want to try this particular strategy?
Oh, thank you for the clarification.
So like whichever strategy we decided to list there, but it's either way, like there'll be similar answers to why would you want to choose a cooperative strategy in general, I feel. So.
Do we have anybody else wanted to contribute?
I couldn't think of any of the strategies. I was wanting to hear what all your group ideas were on this one. So yeah, that's why I'm not saying anything about it, because I couldn't think of any. And just to be clear, I'm not a professor yet. That's my goal. So yeah.
Oh, I think Liz, did you want to say something?
Yeah, for me, it's that the students would develop these skills so that they could accomplish the goals that they have, both as students on assignments. You know, you want them to take this away so it becomes a process that they use to complete their work, and then in their lives.
I think it's so important that we try and model for our students and we put them in relevant, authentic situations that are real world like, so that, you know, it can be intimidating when we go and get a job, maybe our first job, or we're switching jobs, or we're getting all of this education to advance careers, and then we're expected to have this. And so to give them a safe place to practice is pretty important. Thanks for sharing that, Liz.
Okay, so we have everyone back to the main room, and because of time constraints, I'm going to be sharing the deliverables, but I need a reporter from each group to read the deliverables. So in an ideal classroom situation, you ask your students to share their screen. Okay, so you just give them the link. One of the benefits that I saw that I hadn't thought of it, that I had access to the 3 links. So I was able to see if everyone was ready. So I was able to see what each group was doing at the same time. And when I closed the breakout rooms, I realized that most people were almost done. So this is also a benefit of using this type of deliverable editing documents, so you can keep track on what every group is doing. So for time purposes, I am going to share my screen, but I'm going to ask each one of the reporters from each group to report back to the whole group. So let's start with group 1. Who is the reporter from group 1?
That would be me.
Okay, so the floor is yours.
Okay. We struggled with this a little bit, but we came up with some solutions and answers and deliverables. The 3 deliverables were increase students' interest in the diversity of approaches. The second one was help students to feel welcome in the group, which removes tension. The third one was student engagement that continues beyond the classroom.
Perfect.
Okay, those were the 3 deliverables that we came up with.
Wonderful. What about the challenges?
Okay, yeah, the challenges. Student engagement due to technology challenges. Some students, they're on different levels when it comes to challenges. Some of us have found out in our classrooms. Then some students might not want to break their old habits that they've got accustomed to. Even though we're encouraging them, they still are sticking with those.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any cooperative learning strategy that you want to use?
We didn't write all those down, but I did have one that was discussed prior by one of the gentlemen in our group. Was we show the videos, and I think it was talked about in the classroom. Show the videos, and they have questions that they're supposed to respond to, and they can pick their own questions.
Perfect.
I kind of like that one as was being discussed. And I'm looking forward to trying that as soon as perhaps today in my class.
Perfect. That's the idea, to put everything in practice. Thank you so much. Let's go to the breakout room 2. And who's the reporter for group 2?
I guess that would be me, although there were
Okay.
6 roles and only 4 people, you know.
That happens, yeah.
So ours, we just put the basics down. Benefits is students learn to interact with each other better. In doing so, they're encouraged to speak up more, and through the process, they will engage and learn more. A couple of the challenges we identified is they kind of look the same, but they are different. The lack of speaking up for some, it's doesn't come easy, and has to be pulled out of them. And then you also have those who simply fail to respond. And in these cooperative learning opportunities, it becomes a one-person show, one doing all the talking. Cooperative learning strategies that were discussed that they want to try are both the think, pair, and share and a round robin. And doing these, they follow everything that has already been said, but we're going to be doing them with changes because we cannot simply devote 30 minutes to one activity.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Professor Lippert. How about last group, breakout room 3?
That would be me.
Yeah.
So the 3 benefits to introducing the assigned cooperative learning strategies in our courses. Number 1, students teach each other. Number 2, promoting social skills and language. And number 3 is retention of information with something specifically like think, pair, share. The challenges, and we have 3, would be free riders in the breakout rooms, people who just are not really participating, possible group conflict and potential technical issues. And then for our cooperative learning strategies, clearly we were overachievers with this. We had think, pair, share, jigsaw, and assigning roles. And then reasons why we wanted to use those was cooperative teamwork, communication around topics, and development work and skills development work on skills with a safe place to practice.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, let's continue. And again, this is just, I have to share my screen again. Okay, this is just a bite what you can do in your classroom. With more time, of course, you give more thinking time to students and more time to discuss. Now, Professor Constant.
So we were thinking that oftentimes what we do in our classrooms is we will have a general breakout room, or we will have students, working together in group work. So what really is the difference between group work and cooperative learning? And so we wanted to take just a minute here to provide that background for you to think about as you approach your classroom. Which of the two are you really engaging in, and how can each of those, how can you work towards more cooperative learning for the benefits as described earlier? Do you want to move that forward? Okay, so in group work, we kind of divide and conquer. Right? We've got 12 students in class. We're going to do 4 groups of 3. There's no assigned role. It's just the task has been given. So perhaps each one just goes to the room and does it on their own. They may not ask each other questions. The emphasis is on the product, that in the end, when we bring you back, and sometimes the time may be given, sometimes not, you're going to do this. And one person often will take charge, or maybe no one takes charge and they just turn their cameras off. Or maybe, one person does all the work. So I will give you an example of group work. I was in a class, and this is exactly what happened. It was divide and conquer. One person took charge. One person did all the work. The other people did not contribute. I've seen this happen. You as professors may have also gone into a breakout room to pop in to make sure that your students are doing what you asked, and you may see this at times. So we're trying to encourage cooperative learning. We're trying to encourage our students to engage and interact with the material and one another. However, when it's unstructured, oftentimes these are the results. We may still see a product, but we don't know about the process. So in cooperative learning, the group effort is required. Each of the person in the group are accountable to each other. So in our very quick think, pair, share that we just tried to do, we tried to make sure that somebody was the recorder, writing things down. Somebody was going to be responsible for reporting that out. We all tried, the facilitator tried to ensure that everybody contributed. The manager tried to make sure there was clarity if somebody had questions. It did require us to be able to socially interact with each other fairly and mitigate conflicts that might have come together. We were accountable to one another. Not only did we deliver a product, but there was a process in which we all experienced. And we all shared in leadership. It wasn't one person just doing it all or taking it by itself. So we want to move between group work and that structured cooperative learning.
Thank you, Professor Constant. Now let's talk a little bit about the benefits of, and you already talked about it, so I was really happy to read that you actually came up with really interesting and truth benefits of using cooperative learning strategies in your classroom. There are a lot, in fact. And in the PD2Go newsletter that will be sent today, you will have plenty of resources to engage with cooperative learning in your classes. So basically the benefits are that there is more interaction, and when there's more, when you speak less as a professor, you give students more talking time. It absolutely boosts engagement, because students have a role and they actually need to, as we said before, not only take care of the product, but also the process. Students are prepared for this, and one thing that I really like is that it's very easy to plan. So the Think, Pair, Share is actually super easy to plan, and it gives you a good 20, 30 minutes of a class to work on this activity. Now, a few quick tips that we want to share with you before we finish this training. First, use breakout rooms and visit them. You cannot leave your students alone. The idea of having a Google Doc in which they work and you can actually check is a great idea, so you see if they're really working, but also visit the room and ask if they need anything, or if you enter the room and you see that there's no discussion, just try to help anyhow so they have a conversation per group. You need to be able to select the appropriate question and topic. They need to be engaging, they need to be interesting, and students need to be, well, we use a flipped classroom approach. So students are supposed to be prepared for these conversations, and always have a deliverable. So they're able to show what they discussed in the breakout rooms. Any questions? You can use the chat box or just raise your hand and we can take a couple of questions before finishing. Okay. Again, I know that this is maybe a lot of information, but the PD to Go newsletter is totally dedicated to cooperation in the classroom. So you will have dozens of articles and ideas to incorporate in your class. There's even an ebook that I found that I thought it was a really good way to get to know more, a little bit more about cooperative learning that I will be sharing with you in that newsletter. So before we go, I want to invite you to the next month's webinar. We have two webinars as usual, the Why webinar and How to webinar. This particular webinar for next month is required for all faculty. So we are going to be discussing beyond discussion questions and how to boost engagement in online settings. How can you use those discussion questions that we have every week on GAP to engage your students? Not on VCS, not on OCS, on GAP. What can you do to keep the conversation going on GAP? So it will be a 45-minute session on April 11th, and I will be sending the invite soon. So thanks again for joining us today.